Good Tuesday, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for December the 27th. Today we are reading together in Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Hope that you've had a great start to the week. Hope that you've been able to enjoy that cold, white, fluffy stuff that's been falling outside the last day or so. But do hope that you'll be able to stay warm, and we're thankful to God for his blessings of our houses and our clothing, our cars to get us to and from wherever we need to go, even in less than ideal conditions. Very thankful to God for everything that he does for us. And I hope that you've been taking the time to express that to him in your prayers. Again, thanks for tuning in today. Let me go and get the text of Ecclesiastes 8 up on the screen for us as we read together from this text. Issues of, as you see on the screen, although I don't understand necessarily why they didn't just put these in order. There's authority, which is mentioned here, then equity, and then wisdom is discussed at the end. So let's go ahead and read this text together and have there's really one main thought, I think, that I believe, or there's one main thought that I come away with whenever I consider these three subjects that are discussed here in this text today. So let's read together here in Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse number 1, who is like the wise person? And who knows the interpretation of a matter? A person's wisdom brightens his face, and the sternness of his face is changed. Keep the king's command because of your oath made before God. Do not be in a hurry. Leave his presence, and don't persist in a bad cause, since he will do whatever he wants. For the king's word is authoritative, and who can say to him, what are you doing? The one who keeps the command will not experience anything harmful, and a wise heart knows the right time and procedure. For every activity, there is a right time and procedure, even though a person's troubles are heavy on him. Yet no one knows what will happen, because who can tell him what will happen? No one has authority over the wind to restrain it, and there is no authority over the day of death. No one is discharged during battle, and wickedness will not allow those who practice it to escape. All this I have seen. Apply my mind to all the work that is done under the sun at a time when one person has authority over another to his harm. In such circumstances, I saw the wicked buried. They came and went from the holy place, and they were praised in the city where they did those things. This too is futile, because the sentence against an evil act is not carried out quickly, and the heart of people is filled with the desire to commit evil. Although a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, I also know that it will go well with God-fearing people, for they are reverent before him. However, it will not go well with the wicked, and they will not lengthen their days like a shadow, for they are not reverent before God. There is a futility that is done on the earth. There are righteous people who get what the actions of the wicked deserve, and there are wicked people who get what the actions of the righteous deserve. I say that this too is hevel, or futile. So I commended enjoyments, because there is nothing better for a person under the sun than to eat, drink, and enjoy himself, for this will accompany him in his labor during the days of his life that God gives him under the sun. When I applied my mind to know wisdom, and to observe the activity that is done on the earth, even though one's eyes do not close in sleep day or night, I observed all the work of God and concluded that a person is unable to discover the work that is done under the sun. Even though a person labors hard to explore it, he cannot find it. Even a wise person claims to know it, he is unable to discover it. And that is Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Within this text, in the first section of it, talking about authority, it speaks about a king, and the king's word is authoritative, and who can say to him, what are you doing? Recognizing just the principle of authority, that those in authority have the right to make decisions, have the right to lead. And it is good for us then to respect authority. Authority is a principle that is established by God, he himself having authority over his creation, and it's our responsibility to worship him and to obey him. The second issue that is brought up within the text is that of inequity, wicked people doing wicked things. And specifically verse 14, there is a futility, there is a hevel, there is a vapor, a smoke, there's a paradox, there's an enigma about this reality. Verse 14, that what happens to righteous people is what the wicked deserve, and what happens to wicked people is what the righteous deserve. We see that here in this life, and that's just difficult. It's difficult to see this reality that evil sometimes prospers and those who are good sometimes suffer. And then lastly, there's this short section on wisdom and how the preacher sought to pursue wisdom and have wisdom. And yet here's kind of the main point for today. He recognized that his wisdom was very limited. And that ties into the other sections as well. And the fact that authority is limited, what we would pursue to be justice and equitable is limited. Our wisdom is limited. But here's the thing, God is not. In the first section talking about authority, no one has authority over the wind to restrain it, well, except God. There is no authority over the day of death, well, except for God. Whenever we talk about it will not go well with the wicked, and they will not lengthen their days like a shadow, because they are not reverent before God. Well, that's because of God. God will hold them accountable. In the end, they might experience good here in this world, but in the end, God will hold them accountable. And as the preacher observed all of God's work and concluded that a person is unable to discover the work that is done under the sun. He can try to strive after wisdom and knowledge all he wants to, but we're never going to understand everything about God. We're never going to understand every working of God in this world. Again, we are limited. We're limited in our authority. We're limited in our ability to be equitable and just. There's just things going to happen in this world that we don't have control over, and that we are limited in our wisdom. And yet recognizing this pushes us all toward God. And oftentimes it is hevel, it is futile to struggle against authority. It is futile to try to grasp inequity. It is futile, it is hevel to try to understand the ways of God. All these things belong to God alone in their most perfect sense. And we would do well then to trust in God in these subject matters, authority, justice, wisdom. We can only pursue so much. We can only gain so much and have knowledge or authority or an understanding of justice to a certain degree. But God is perfect in these things, and we need to recognize that. We need to be content with that. Be content with what we have. And in fact, again, verse 14, so I commended enjoyment. Sometimes we just need to sit back and enjoy what we do have, because there's nothing better for a person under the sun than to eat and drink and enjoy himself, for this will accompany him in his labor during this life, or during the days of his life that God gives him under the sun. Again, that's given by God. So we've seen this now on a number of occasions. We've seen in chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 5, and now here in chapter 8, this commending enjoyment of what God gives us. And we also see from a couple of few days ago, whenever we read in chapter 6, that one of the really negative things is whenever somebody doesn't get to enjoy what they have in this life. So I just continue to come back to this principle of enjoying what we have, recognizing the limitations that we have as well, and being thankful to God for what he provides, being thankful to God that he has these things under control. Even though we might struggle with these subjects in some way, we know that God does not, and he will take care of all of it in the end. Thankful for you tuning into this reading today. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. We're looking forward to reading again tomorrow in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, and also our Bible study tomorrow night. And we are making our way towards the end of our reading for 2022. Just a few more days, see Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 more days reading here in Ecclesiastes. And then on Sunday, we'll be kicking off in Genesis. Really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to the conclusion of our readings for this year and moving into next year. Again, have a great rest of your Tuesday, everyone. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Take care and God bless.